Hey everybody, welcome back to the Streaming Chronicles. Today I'm talking about a show that a lot of people were recommending to me, but I just never got around to watching it. This weekend I decided to knock out the whole thing, seasons 1 through 3, so let's get right into it. On My Block is co-created by Lauren Lungridge, Eddie Gonzalez, and Jeremy Haft. On My Block tells the story of a group of teenagers growing up in Free Ridge, a fictional neighborhood in South Central LA. The group find themselves in the middle of a gang war when one of them joins one of the local gangs. Together, the group searches for a way to get their friend out before it's too late. This honestly feels like a whole season of TV. It doesn't even feel like 3 seasons because the story flows between each season so well, which is definitely a plus for this show. This is a great coming of age comedy slash drama. Now, it's not perfect, but I did really enjoy it. I did really grow to love a lot of the characters. There's some great development. They also leave the door open for a lot of cool things to happen, possibly in a 4th season if they choose to do it, because as far as I know, they have not confirmed it. First, let's start off with what I really enjoyed the most about this series, which is the look and the feel of it. From the colors to the music to the setting, everything about it was beautiful. I felt fully immersed in this neighborhood, in this area of California. Next, let's talk characters. This has a really great cast of characters to get behind. Now, some of them got my nerves, I'm not gonna lie, but I think there was definitely a lot of people you could get behind. It's really easy to follow everything that's going on. You're really invested because you love these characters a lot. First off, let's talk about Ruby and Jamal. These two, for me, were a little annoying in the beginning, I'm not gonna lie, but they definitely grew on me. The interesting thing about Ruby is that in the beginning, he acts like he's a cool, smooth talker. He tries to be cool with the ladies, but then at the same time, when he's faced with the gang leaders and stuff, you see him get really nervous and tongue-tied, and he just word vomits. It's really hilarious. But he does a great job, and I think he does grow a lot as the show goes on. He and the other characters go through a few tragedies too, and you see how these tragedies really affect him and the people around him, and I think they did a great job of putting that on display. Jamal, I think, is one of the most underrated characters in the show. Like, when you talk to people about the show, a lot of people will say Jamal is one of their favorites, but within the context of the show, he actually does a lot for the plot and propelling the plot forward. He is the smartest. He really does the most to help everything that's going on. But you can see the other characters treat him like trash. They always blame him for everything. They always yell at him. In the beginning, there's this gag about him not being able to keep a secret, and that part I can kind of understand. But once you get past that, he does a lot of cool stuff. He does a lot of hands-on things that really help the cause of what these kids are doing. And so I think he is really one of the best characters, definitely. But I won't say he's my favorite, because again, there's some times where he did get kind of annoying. Next, let's talk about Monse and Caesar. These two were not my favorite characters at all. There are definitely parts where I sympathize with what they were going through, especially Caesar, where he was really in the middle of this gang violence, where he was brought into this gang really because he felt like he had no choice. Like, all that stuff concerning the gang, the Santos, all that stuff, I felt bad for him. But then there's other times where he's just making really stupid decisions and blaming people for things that he shouldn't blame them for and lashing out on people. Like, there's so many things that I thought was done wrong about him, but again, I can't totally blame him based on the circumstances. Then there's Monse. She's another person who I had moments where I did feel bad for her, but there's other moments where she's just being annoying, where she's making really stupid decisions, blaming people for things that are definitely not their fault, causing a lot of drama that the show really did not need, in my opinion. And then these two together were probably one of my least favorite, like most annoying will they won't they couples I've ever seen on TV. Like, they really could not make up their mind if they wanted to be together or not. It's almost like that Key and Peele sketch with Megan and that guy where he's like chasing around, going like, Megan, you're back, and she goes around like, no, and then she turns back around and like kind of gives him a smile. Like, I feel like it was that, where they kept playing games with each other, they acted like they didn't want each other, and then they turn around and change their minds. Like, they were so wishy-washy about it, it just got on my nerves, and I was basically over it by the end of the 1st season. The funniest character for me was Chivo, who was one of the Santos gang members, or he was formerly a Santos member. He has this weird thing with gnomes that Jamal kind of gets wrapped up in, but besides that, that guy was just so odd and hilarious. Is this performance that I think really helped bring out the weirdness of it, because he's just very stern and like almost robotic in a way, but then he'd like pull out one of these gnomes, or he'd place these gnomes around his house and they almost like watching you as you're walking around the scene. I would say Chivo's definitely the funniest character for me. Like, every time he was on screen, I definitely was laughing. I loved how he played off the other characters, especially Jamal, where they kind of had this rivalry and they start fighting over these gnomes. It's really funny. There's also Caesar's brother, Oscar, also goes by Spooky, who is one of the leaders of the Santos gang. He was definitely a jerk towards the beginning, but I think as time goes on and they show more of what he had to go through, they peel back the layers, I definitely was really invested in his character. I think he was actually one of the most compelling ones too, because you definitely see that, of course, a lot of stuff he's doing is bad, but you understand why. And it's kind of interesting to see how he becomes a big brother to all of the teenagers, not just Caesar. Last thing I really enjoyed about the show was the story. Like I said earlier, these seasons blend together so well. You can watch them all in one go, and it's a complete story. It's a story that I thought was paced really well and had a lot of great twists and turns. The best part for me was the whole Roller World conspiracy. I'm not gonna get to details. I'm not gonna get too much into spoilers here, but I love the development of the story. I love how Jamal was the one to really propel that story forward, where it kind of seemed like a subplot, but then as time went on, it became more important to the overall story. But the overall story was still really intriguing. I love the suspense, the comedy, the romance. A lot of that stuff worked for me. Now let's talk about some things that either I would say stood out to me or could have been better. Like I said, Caesar and Monte's romance really got on my nerves. The will they won't they thing was really overdone. Also, there's Jasmine. I forgot to mention her when I was talking about characters. She starts off as the comic relief, the really over the top character that the other teens don't seem to like as much, but as time goes on, she does basically become a member of the group, right? Now, one thing that I thought was kind of weird is that on one hand, she's doing all this crazy over the top comedic stuff, and then there's other moments where she's having heart to hearts with characters, especially Ruby, where you see how she's sensitive, you see all the things that she's going through. She's like the motivational speaker for a lot of the characters too. And I like that part. I love those parts, but at the same time, compared to the crazy wacky stuff, I feel like they kind of cancel each other out. Like I feel like they could have done a little bit better with balancing those two aspects of her character. I feel like they kind of undercut each other, if that makes sense. Like I would be like, okay, so she's serious, so she has gone through this stuff, she knows what she's talking about, but then she turn around and do something really weird or really creepy, and then I'm like, okay, I don't know if I'm totally behind you anymore. Like, I really cannot make up my mind with this character, and I feel like to some degree the writers have that same issue. Next thing that I thought was kind of weird about this show, and obviously a lot of these actors, of course, are over the age of 21, over the age of 18, right? So they're not kids really, but in the show they're kids, and there are definitely moments where I see them doing things. I'm like, should they be doing that? Or like adults doing things with them that made me really uncomfortable. Like there are definitely moments where adults are straight up kissing these kids and like almost sleeping with them. And like there's some really weird moments that I'm like borderline concerned about. And I guess it's just the nature of the place they're living in, but it did kind of stand out to me like, all right, that's kind of weird. The verdict. I think On My Block seasons 1 through 3 are a great time. Like I said, I really like the characters, well, most of the characters. The story was really interesting and it flowed really well through the 3 seasons. And it's a quick watch, so if you're looking for something to watch, I definitely recommend this one. So, have you watched On My Block seasons 1 through 3? What did you think about them? Let me know down in the comments. Also, don't forget to like this video, share it, and subscribe. Thank you for watching. I will see you in the next one.